Since All In London of last year, fans have been speculating about Bill Goldberg making his way to All Elite Wrestling. This was further fueled by the fact that it was put out there, I think, by both Tony Khan and Bill Goldberg in different interviews, that they're friends, that they talk to each other, that they know each other well, and that they have indeed had discussions about Bill going to AEW. So now, fast forward a year later, almost, since those rumors came out, Goldberg's been doing all these interviews bitching about how he didn't get his retirement match that he wanted. Vince screwed him out of that, blah, 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 blah. He's back to being bitter about the industry again, right? Well, he sat down to do an interview with, what the fuck is there, 7 point, I don't know, let's look it up here, 93.7 The Ticket with Adam Carriker. That's his name, Adam Carriker. Are you 793? Like I'm supposed to fucking know that. You act like it's fucking the Wrestling Observer or something like that. Some fucking local sports radio station. Who cares? But he was on there, and Adam Carriker apparently is an ex-football player or something like that. He had Bill Goldberg on his show to talk about Goldberg's son apparently going to play some college football, and that was the big topic of that conversation. But this guy also apparently a wrestling fan, and he did get into the wrestling questions. He asked about what Goldberg thought of Vince McMahon. Goldberg basically blew it off, so he has personal opinions, but he'll save those, and his professional opinion is no opinion, no comment. But he sure as fuck had a comment when he was asked, hey, so last time we talked, I mentioned AEW. There were talks that you were talking with Tony Khan. Have you continued to talk with Tony Khan or had any other talks with Tony Khan about possibly going to AEW, possibly for that big retirement match that you were hoping you would get? And Goldberg didn't hold back.
Because the last time we chatted, which was about a year ago, I think AEW got brought up very briefly, and I know you're focused on other things, not really watching too much pro wrestling, the product right now. I'm just kind of curious if you've ever had a conversation with Tony Khan about ever joining AEW at any point. I'm just kind of curious if that conversation ever even took place.
I've talked to him a number of times throughout the past, but, you know, and this is where you're going to get the most blunt answer you're going to get from me. The product's too cheesy. The product is too cheesy. It doesn't deserve to have, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's not, you're really going to get me going. But if there was a comparable, viable option as a competitor that would allow me to still look myself in the mirror after I was a member of their roster, yeah, then it would be a consideration, but not a chance.
Now, look, I'll start this off by saying that Goldberg, it's no real loss to AEW. They're not going to lose any sleep over not being able to get Bill Goldberg in for one match or two. Maybe Tony would, because he's probably got a fucking hard on for Goldberg because he grew up in that era. But honestly, nobody cares. Goldberg can ride off into the sunset, and nobody's going to miss him in the wrestling business. That said, that was pretty damning comments by Goldberg. Goldberg, not known to really bite his tongue about wrestling, known to be fairly bitter and dismissive and meh. And he's also known to try to make himself sound cool by putting down wrestling. Right? He often likes to belittle wrestling as going out there in my underwear, and he doesn't take it seriously. Even in this interview, he was asked his favorite moment in wrestling. He said it was wrestling Hogan. He's like, but it wasn't because of the belt. It was because all the Atlanta Falcons came out and wanted to be me, and they wanted to celebrate with me and support me, and so he got the respect from his actual peers that he respected in the football business for doing something big in the wrestling business, which probably 90% of those football players would rather be wrestling Hulk Hogan in the Georgia Dome and winning the world title than wrestling for the football for the Atlanta Falcons. You know what I mean? So Goldberg's never really liked wrestling to begin with. So you could take his comments here with a grain of salt. Sure. But you also listen to like people like The Undertaker have had really like dismissive comments about AEW in the past. And, you know, Triple H, no shortage of dismissive comments about AEW. And, you know, many others. You know, Becky Lynch was asked, you know, because her contract, she still has not re-signed her contract. You know, is this, hey, are you thinking about going somewhere else? And she flat out said, no, there is nowhere else. It's either WWE or go home and hang out with my daughter, basically, is what she had said. So what is it? It's a problem that all of these veterans, all of these legacy players in wrestling, that the greater professional wrestling industry just doesn't seem to have the respect. Can't get no respect for AEW. They're a joke. They're a laughing stock. Why? Why are they a laughing stock? Is it because they're not really drawing anybody right now? Or is it because they do like silly fucking ladder dives through glass and shit and fucking pizza cutter matches and stuff like that? And Goldberg sees Darby Allin diving off a fucking ladder through glass. And he probably did because Sting was a peer of his. And, you know, if he's going to watch any AEW, maybe he would watch Sting's last match. I doubt Goldberg watches anything, but I'm sure of the stuff he's seen and heard, it's not too flattering. AEW, they don't present it. I'm trying to find the right way to word this, because they don't carry themselves in a way that garners the respect that WWE does. Maybe that's the best way to say it, but I don't know. They are indie-rific. They are trying to pull things from like ECW, and, you know, they're trying to do things, you know, with the hardcore stuff and the, you know, they're doing things that you would find in any indie wrestling promotion just on the main stage. And it doesn't have the same professionalism that a WWE would have. That doesn't do that kind of shit. Now, as a wrestling alternative, I would argue, to play devil's advocate here, the last thing you want to do is just go be WWE light. You know, Eric Bischoff always says, you got to be better than, or you're going to be less. You got to be better than or different than, or you're going to be less than. If you can't be better than, be different than. So certainly doing the indie stuff, the hardcore stuff, that's going to, the deathmatch stuff, that's going to be different than. Hasn't really drawn the audience, though, has it? Which is sad, because we need a good, strong alternative in the business. And when you got these big free agent stars, Tony Khan has you know, said that he's going to be extremely aggressive on the free agency. And when you got Seth Rollins coming up, you got Becky Lynch coming up, you got Drew McIntyre coming up, you got, well, Finn Balor, I think, just re-signed, actually. But he was coming up. The WWE's got a talent relations guy, or had. He was just recently fired. But they had a guy in the spot of talent relations that apparently was pretty shitty at his job. And one of his shittiness, one of the shitty things about that he was doing in his job was he was waiting to the last minute to reach out to talent to discuss a new contract, which made them feel not valued, right? Like, if your contract's about to run up in a month or two and you still haven't reached out to me, well, fuck you. You know, am I not a high priority to you then? I must not be all that important to this company if I'm not all that important to reach out to sign a new contract. But those complaints were heard and that guy was released, so I don't think that'll be a problem going forward. And I do probably expect Seth, Becky, and Drew all to re-sign with WWE. Sheamus, I think his contract's coming up too. Burger after burger after burger. What is it about AEW that gets that reaction? Because it's not Bill Goldberg and nobody cares about Bill Goldberg, but his greater sentiment that AEW is a joke. It's been echoed, like I said, by like The Undertaker. Becky Lynch doesn't consider it a serious option when her contract's up. Why is that? The money's there. The national TV is there. But for some reason, being on that show is perceived as lowering yourself. And that's what Goldberg was getting at. He's like, if there was a true competitor where I could look myself in the mirror after and have, you know what I mean? But the AEW is a step down. It's like, to him, it's like going and wrestling his last match in a high school fucking gym or something like that. I don't know. If he would have did like Wembley, if they could get him at All In London, Wembley, that would be a fair way to retire. You can't turn your nose up to a stadium full of people for your last match, no matter where it is. A stadium full of wrestling fans is a stadium full of wrestling fans. A stadium. 80,000 people, 60,000 people, whatever the fuck it'll be. That could be a place to do it if you were going to do it. Bill Goldberg, Tony Khan are friends, but that friendship didn't go far enough to extend any sort of respect at all, even a passive bite my tongue respect. I have my real thoughts, but publicly I'll play nice. No, just publicly, fuck those guys. They're a joke. LOL. But man, they have, they got guys like Swerve. They got guys like Will Ospreay. Bryan Danielson's still doing great. They have amazing talent over there. Then they got these goofs like the Young Bucks. And then they got the goofs like fucking Orange Cassidy. And then they got, who I liked, by the way. I liked Orange Cassidy for like the first couple years. He was fun at first when he was just like the manager guy, kind of, and he was doing his shtick. And it was a little weird at first, but then once I got it, I was like, oh, that's fun. And then once he started wrestling, it was funny to watch his little, the way he would do his little shits with his kicks and his, And then when they started doing the thing with Orange Cassidy, I know I'm going on a sidebar. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We're just friends talking here. And then when Orange Cassidy they started doing the thing where he's like, no, he's actually a really good wrestler who just uses this as like a way to lower your guard or lure you in or whatever the fuck. It's a distraction tactic. And I liked that too, but now it's become same old shit, right? It's time for a character change for that guy. He's going to keep doing that. It's going to keep being ridiculous. Young Bucks lost all credibility with me once they refused to work with CM Punk. They have literally the biggest money match they would ever have in their entire life. Biggest money angle, feud, run. Because there's 6 of them. There's 6 and 6. So any combination of the Bucks versus FTR, which we got way too past the point now. But Bucks versus FTR, Kenny versus Punk, Punk versus Matt, Punk versus Nick. Like, you can do any combination of these, and it's just you just be able to print money after Brawl Out, right? Like, if they would have just gotten a room quickly and Punk was ready to make his return, and instead of splitting them off and into Collision in separate shows, get away from me, I don't ever want to see you anywhere. If they're like, yeah, let's do some fucking business, and they came back and they started working an angle together, print fucking money. But they went the opposite direction because they're a bunch of little bitches. And we start seeing them do, we don't want to work with FTR. We want to win we want to create a trios title and win those with Kenny. Okay. And now they're ruining Okada too, because Okada is not getting over in a heel role, smarmy heel with the Young Bucks. Nobody cares about the Young Bucks. It's a quick way to die. The ratings are showing it. All that to say, I think AEW's got a lot of good shit going for it right now. They coming out of Dynasty, I see a little bit of hope for AEW where I did not see it before, but it's how they capitalize on things, how they use the talents that they have going forward. You build around Swerve, you build around Ospreay, and I think fans will follow if you do that. But if you're going to continue to build around the Young Bucks and Chris Jericho and shit like that. I think, AEW's not long for this world. Though, Tony's a millionaire, so he'll be able to do this show as long as he wants to. But as far as like people actually attending and showing up, it could go the way of like a UWF very easily. But I can see them turning this ship around too. They got all the talent in the world to do it. They got all the people backstage, all the brilliant minds. They have everything they need. The problem is Tony Khan. Tony Khan needs to either get his shit together or step the fuck out of the way and start making these changes. Look into these things. Take surveys. Why don't people take AEW seriously? Why does a Bill Goldberg not see that as a viable option? Not that I want Bill Goldberg to come wrestle with me, but why doesn't he want to? Because he knows the money's there. He knows the national TV is there. So it's just he doesn't want to be associated with the product. He doesn't want to lower himself to being seen on such a thing. It would be a step down. Why? Is it just the fan attendance? Is it just the ratings? Or is it because all the clown shoe bullshit that gets put on the show that is driving everybody away and causing people like Goldberg, Taker, and anybody else to just not take them seriously? Love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. I know there's a lot of AEW fans. I know for a fact because, I'll see in videos where I knock AEW, I'll lose subscribers on that. Like, people just don't want to hear. People don't want to hear it. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What's going on here and what can they do to turn it around? And honestly, who gives a shit what Bill Goldberg thinks? But it's more emblematic of a bigger problem.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.